All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Martin from Provident CRM. Welcome to our second Monday.com user group session. I'm going to hand over to Matan, then he's going to share with you a little example of how he's using Monday at the moment.
So welcome, everyone. So today I'm going to present how to use the one-on-one template. So if you are a manager managing many team members and you want to have one place where you have manageable one-on-one meeting summary of the meeting, agenda, action items, etc., and have it in one place, centralized and organized, yet maintain privacy between the team members. So this is the way to do that. So the way I did it on my board, basically I created a top group, which I called it general, which is this one. Here, that this group is mainly for different announcement, team event, anything that you want to advise the entire team. And each group here will be the team member. So here I have a group for Eddie, Eyal, Ofek, etc., etc. So if we take a look in one of the team members, so I have a date column to indicate the meeting date, and of course the status column, whether the meeting was scheduled, done, or canceled, and obviously a person column for the specific person. One thing that I can do basically is if I will go inside the weekly meeting, so obviously I can change the name of the, each item will be the weekly meeting. I can change the name to have it like one-on-one with Matan or something like that. And if I will open the update, so I can, prior to the meeting, I can create kind of an agenda, for example. Let's do it like this. And let's say I want to have it as a checklist. So topic A, topic B, etc. And then during the meeting, I can mark if I cover this or not. After the meeting also, or during the meeting, I can also have kind of a summary for the meeting, something like that. So A, B, C, I will have summary for everything that I covered during the meeting. Now, if you want to have kind of an action item, so the way I decided to do that is to have it on a sub item. So for each weekly meeting, for each item, I can create action item. Let's say action item 1, And for each action item, I have a due by. Obviously, I want to limit the person to do that. For example, I will do it. I want this action item to be done by tomorrow. And the owner, sometimes it can be myself, sometimes it can be the person that I assigned this team. So here I have another column, people column. And a status column, then after the action item was marked, so the person can come and say, this is done, working on it, stuck, etc. Now, before you want to assign a person for this specific item, I guess the first issue that you need to do is to invite the person for this board. Whether to invite it manually, just to add the person, so it's Eduardo, or I can just invite the entire team. So, for example, yes, partner, which I have already. Now, important note here that you must not add this specific person as the owner for this board, and I will explain in a second. The only person that should be owner on this board is you, the manager, or other managers that need to look into that board and that, I guess, items or whatever. And the reason for that is basically to kind of give you another layer of privacy. And I will explain how we do that. So in order to achieve that, basically we need to go to the board permissions of this specific board. And as you can see, the view permission, the user can only view items they created or have been assigned to them in any people column must to be checked. As you can see, it's a new feature. So you must check this one. And the edit permission, you want to give edit everything to everyone, because as we mentioned, they want to add something into the agenda or mark something as task as done and etc. An important note, please note, board owners can do everything on this board, which is mean only a board owner will be able to see all the items on this board. They will be able to change, edit, and yeah. So it means right now, so if I have an action item on all of these, so when Eddie will get into this board, so basically we'll be able to see only the items that he's assigned to. And obviously the general, which is assigned to the all partner PS team, which Eddie is part of the PS team, part of this team member. And that again gives you the privacy way. Now, if you want to enhance it, we don't want every week to create kind of a weekly meeting to create the items manually. So another way to enhance it is basically if I will go to the workflow and wait 1 second, it's loading.
Very slow.
Yeah, it's the Monday account I'm using, so it's a huge account, and yeah, too many users. So every time period, create an item. I would use this automation basically, and I would say if I have a weekly or bi-weekly, so let's say every Tuesday, once in a week, I want to create this item, and then I will create the item. And I will assign it to the relevant group. So let's say I want to have a meeting with Eddie. I will give it a name, Eddie and Matan one-on-one. And then I will need to put the date. Now I'm not going to put the hard-coded date. In a second, I will show you a nice trick how to push the date for a specific date. And obviously the status will be the default schedule. And I will need to assign it to the relevant person, which is Eddie. Once I will create this automation, I want to create another automation that basically, when the item is created, I would like to set the date for today. So then I will not need to create every time that the item is created every week. I will need to create the date column for this specific day. So what I can do to combine these two automation together and say, every time that item is created, then you will put the date for today and to create this automation. By that, we're achieving, everything will be automatically. So you don't need to create this date and the items. And again, the most important issue is with the board permission, you can achieve the level of privacy, and manager can manage everything in one place, all these team members, and the team member can communicate on this and to see only the relevant items that related to them. I think that's it from my end. Unless you have any questions, I would be happy to help and to answer.
Thanks, Matan. So I've got a question to start with, and if anyone has a question afterwards, please jump in. So the idea then, so if I log in now to this board and I'm Martin, then I see the general group at the top, and then I'll see a group with my name, but I won't see any other groups. Is that right?
So actually, you will see all the group names, but you will not be able to see the items. So you'll see the group Eddie, you will see the group Eyal, but all of them will be with no items inside. You will not be able to see. Actually, it will be the team members. We cannot restrict the name of the group, but we can restrict the items that assigned inside the group. So that's good question.
So I can't see any of the items, just the groups. I know there's a group there, but I don't know what's in. I can web access.
Exactly. Yeah. The items and the sub items as well. So if I will assign it, for example, here. Yeah.
And even when it's not assigned, then I can still only see things that are assigned to me. So I'm added obviously as part of the general ones, so I see those, but unless it's assigned to me, I can't see it.
Exactly. So for example, if I would create another action item here, it's a good point. Action item 2, if I didn't assign it, so no one will be able to assign it because only people are assigned to this specific item. So you can create action items and assign it to yourself or to not assign it to anyone, but no one else will be able to see that, only if it's assigned to a specific team or to a specific person.
Okay.
Matan, just a question for me. I think this is great. And let's say if you have a big team, let's say, for example, there's 50 people in your team. If you want to, and then you have 50 different groups. If I'm someone in your team, let's say I'm Eddie, I can still create a filtered view, right? And just see the items for myself separately.
Exactly. So prior to the meeting, if you want, obviously Eddie himself can do that and to see only his view. And also you can create that kind of view for yourself if you want to, if you're a manager and don't want to look, I don't know, you want to share your screen during this one-on-one, you don't want to see that the other, if you forget to collapse or the group. So yes, you can create a view. So it's both sides. for the team members and also for the manager. You can create a view and filter it by specific person. It's a good point.
Perfect.
Okay, great, really interesting. Again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to voice them now if you like. If you have any questions or thoughts on this. And what we'll do then is, if we don't have any questions, then thanks, Matan. That was really interesting. Great to see some quite simple use there, but quite effective. I quite like that. The permissions, I think, is an underused feature, so great to see that in action. So thank you. We'll have some more time for questions at the end, but for the moment, then we're going to hand over to Z, who's going to talk to us about holidays, which is always a tough subject.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to share my screen in a second. But really what I want to show you is a couple of things. Firstly, there's a new feature within Monday that allows for some logic matching, which we'll be using for the purpose of this. And one of the really cool workflows that have been created is how we use that logic matching to then create a workflow around holidays. Just want to make sure that you can all see my screen on the Monday board.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Okay, so one of the things we hear all the time is that, it's fantastic for Monday to have date columns and have a tracker that allows you to see if something is done on time and also trigger things like notifications based on the date. But occasionally there are times where, let's say you have colleagues in different time zones who aren't aware of local holidays, or if you have colleagues who just don't know there is a holiday coming up, that a date could be assigned to a day where no one's actually working, which obviously we don't want because it means no one's going to pick up the item and the true deadline is not actually correct. So something that we've created recently is a way to look up dates, or really any other column between two different boards. And I'll show you how we implement that in this case. So here I've got a normal project tracker. So, some examples of projects that are at different stages. I will come back to this. For now, one thing to get started on setting this up is to just have a general tracker for holidays. So we've got here public holidays. We've had the Jubilee in the UK recently. We've got some others coming up as well. You don't need to add anything else, really just the item and the date, person. You don't necessarily need this column, but what that does is this acts as a place for another board to look up this date in particular. So now I've got these, I've got the holiday dates associated to them as well. I can then create from my project board or any other board a couple of automations that help us with that. So the first one is to create here a logic connection. So this here basically says when you create an item and the date changes to an item, sorry, the date changes to a date which is actually a public holiday, we can look that up in the holidays board, and we can change and then with the second automation, we can change the actual deadline by, for example, 1 business day. So before I go into how that looks, what you can do here is I'll show you how you can set it up on your own. But it's basically, if you go to the Automation Center, there are recipes already here. So if we search for logic, you'll be able to find these. It is in beta stage right now, but we've tested it quite a lot. It's working to how we expect. Potentially, there might be some enhancements added and different variations of this logic. But very simply, if you want to set this up, you just need to add it to a board, connect it to your holidays board, and the column that we want to look up in the holidays board is date, and we want to correspond that with date in our current board. And the final thing is just to create a connect column if you haven't already. So I won't add that because I've already got an automation. The second automation that we have on this board is this one here that I mentioned earlier. So when we find a date is a public holiday, we can then do 2 things. Firstly, we can push it out, and you can choose the number of days or weeks or business days you want to push it out by. So days might work in some cases, but for example, if the new deadline is on the weekend, we probably don't want that to happen as well, presuming no one's working. So it's very customizable up to what you need. And secondly, I can create a notification to whoever was assigned, or you can choose the person to notify just to tell them, by the way, here, this is a heads up, this was assigned to you, but it was on a public holiday, so we moved it out automatically by 1 business day. So that reduces any confusion as to whether you should be working on a bank holiday, hopefully, and it also means that we have a more accurate representation of when the task is due. So that's the automation side of things. Let's see what that looks like in practice. So going back to the holidays board, I'm just picking out a couple of random dates. So we have the 2nd of June, 3rd of June, and 29th of August. So for example, if I move this task here, we've had some delay, let's say on the actual project, and now the new deadline is 29th of August. What will happen in a second is that will a connection. It looks it up and shows that it's a summer bank holiday. And you can see instead of the 29th, it's actually been moved automatically in the system to the 31st of August. We can do the same thing here with any of the other dates that are bank holidays, and the same effect will happen as well. And then lastly, what you'll receive as well is notifications on your Monday account. Obviously, if you have the notification set up to connect with your email, it will do the same thing. But you can see I've been notified that the items have been moved because it's a public holiday. So yeah, I think this is for anyone who's managing a team or working on projects across different teams and different locations. This is a really handy way of keeping track of that, and just to make sure no one gets items put on their workload at the weekend or at a bank holiday.
Yeah, really nicely. Really nicely. I like that feature. The business day one, I hadn't seen that before. So that's a new feature then, I think, as well, is it?
Exactly, yeah. So we had a lot of feedback from customers about days, especially when it comes to business days and weekends. We had, you know, some instances where dates were pushed, but to a Saturday, which isn't necessarily helpful. So within that feature release, we allow the user to basically say which are their business days. So normally, you know, in the UK it would be Saturday and Sunday is the weekend, but in some markets it might be, say, Friday and Saturday. So we accommodate for that too. Okay,
so we can configure that then from the account level as to what the business days are.
Exactly, yeah, and that's just in the admin section.
Okay, cool, really good. Yeah, I like it. Again, nice and simple, but really useful at the same time. And again, showing the automations, you know, relatively easy to set up, but quite powerful, I think, in terms of the effect that they have on things.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, everything else on the board is still the same. The features are still there. So if we have, let's say, 2 items that are dependent on each other, pushing out the date on the first one will also trigger the push on the second as well. So it should work as usual as to how you're used to using Monday.com.
Fantastic, great. So again, open to any questions. If anybody has any questions on this or any other features.
I've got one I could maybe ask that Martin, that perhaps people could perhaps respond to. I'm building a number of boards which, because of the structure, have a number of columns which move out the way, and I've changed some of them down into item and sub-item levels, but nevertheless I'm still left with a number of boards which a number of columns which are across the way. Is there any way that, so visually when you look at the board, it's quite complicated. It's not complicated, but it just looks busy. Is there any way that we could maybe have the facility where we could change the color of the text of the column title, so that we could group the red ones together, the green ones together, the blue ones together? And that would make it, your mind could then group the columns together.
So group the columns together or group the items? Change
the color of the text of the, so at the moment all the text is black.
Yes.
And I've got the same issue on a dashboard where I've got for the senior management team, I've got information for them, but what we're really interested in is what we call the red information, but the red information is in black text. It's lost within the rest of the text. Is there any way that we can change the color of the text either on a board or a dashboard, which says, you know, this is important.
So we can do conditional coloring.
I do have a suggestion. When you say, I just want to understand when you want to change the color of the text. You will not be able to change the color of the text, but you can use the view and mark the cell for specific condition, let's say. So if it's a status, and the status you want all the done, the status is not a good example because it's already colored. But let's say if it's a formula and you have a number, and if the number is higher than 50, you want to mark all the colors in red. So you can do it with the view to create kind of a view with the coloring. I don't know if you are familiar with this feature.
Yeah.
And in terms of if when you look into the board and it's a bit busy, so maybe you can hide some of the column or create another view for this specific column that you just need to see. I don't know if it makes sense and answer your question.
Okay, so the answer is no, you can't change the color of the text.
The color of the text, no, but the cell color you can change. So here, for example, I don't know who is presenting, but yeah, so I can see this is in pink, for example, the cost one.
Okay.
Yes,
So we can change the color of the cell.
You change the color of the cell.
Yeah, exactly, the color of the cell, and you can add many conditions here. So not only you can even add not only in the cell, you can add it for a row. So if you create, I think it's add a condition, so you do it for a row and then whatever the condition for a specific column, you can just change it and it will run it in blue. You see, and you can add as many conditions as you want, and you can save it as a new view. Yeah.
So that was something else I was going to ask. Then, in some, if you do it like this, you can then create multiple views on the menu at the top there, along the top. Is there a way that you can then, and at the moment, they're just positioned in the order that you create them. Is there any way that you can have the facility to edit that, and you might want to pull the fourth one to the second one, or you might want to put them in alphabetical order, or you might want to put them in date created order?
So the views across the top as your different views, can you put them in different orders?
Yeah.
So I know you can define what the default view is. I'm not sure if you can change it beyond that.
No.
Yeah.
Matan, you don't
make it
no.
default.
So
you
can create a default or home, yeah, but you cannot just not even drag and drop. So what you will need to do basically is to create in the order that you want to have it. So once you create the important, and then to create those view in the order that you want to have, but you will not be able to mix and match between them, unfortunately. But it's a good feedback, and we can raise it with our product team.
See, you're on mute there if you're talking. I can't even unmute yet.
Apologies for that. Hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, just another suggestion, Alistair, if you have columns that you want in different views, you can, for example, just disregard anything that's not important. So if you have a management board or a view that you want to see, we can hide anything that's not relevant, and everyone else who's not on that view can just still see all of the data. Or if there's things that are in there that are redundant for most people, you may just want to hide a lot of those in the view itself.
Thank you.
No problem.
So thanks, Alistair. Appreciate the questions. Great to have some. If anyone has any others, or Alistair, if you've got more than happy to listen to any of those.
Hi, I have a question. When there is a dashboard and the status is like Q1, Q2, Q3, but it does not get sorted, it shows, for some reason, it shows either Q2, then Q1, Q3. So how do I sort those in the dashboard view?
So the dashboard is showing you information from different.
I have a status column, like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And when I create a dashboard view, it for some reasons it just says when I try to stack or things like that, it says like Q2, then Q1, Q3. It picks up its own order, but I want to have it in a sorted order. So how do I do that?
And is it just the status that is identifying the quarter?
Yeah.
So there's no days.
Yeah, no days. It's just because say I have a release plan. I have just said like item 1, item 2, item 3, Q1, Q2, Q3, and I just want to display that in the chart view. So it just picks up some random order. I don't know what is the logic behind those orders, but it just says Q2, Q1, Q3.
So you're creating the dashboard view on the board itself, and you've got a chart there at that point, correct?
Like it could combine more than one boards. It's not in the same board. I'm not creating a dashboard in the same board. It's just outside in the workspace. I'm creating a dashboard.
Okay, so you've got a workspace
Yeah.
to the board. Okay, perfect. Yeah, and then it's a chart then that you have in this instance.
Yes.
Which is linked to the status. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and when you go into the settings then for the graph.
Yeah, I tried x-axis ascending, y-axis descending, whatever it is, but still it shows, let me give you some more clarity. I have a group, different groups like engineering, then product 1, product 2 groups, and I want to know what are all the releases planned for different groups. So product 1 has some like Q1, Q2, with some features like Q1, Q2, Q3. So I stack by groups, and on the releases like the quarters, whatever quarter has been planned. So what it shows is it shows me like some feature which is planned for Q1 2023. It shows that comes first, and then it says Q3, then Q4, then Q1, then Q2. I don't know from where it has picked that order. I'm not sure on how it has picked that order, but I wanted it to be sorted like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then Q1 2023, like that.
So my guess here is that because the quarters are defined by the status column, which is just a free text column from an infrastructure point of view, the sorting won't be able to recognize the date sequence, if that makes sense. So my suggestion would be I'm just going to try and share my screen again, to have a date assigned to each of those tasks. Do you see my screen now with the chart?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So this is an example of a customer using this for in this case CRM, but where we have dates associated to each of these opportunities, we can then pick up the quarter itself. So instead of March and April, we can see that in Q1 and Q2. And what that's doing, it's looking up the date associated and putting it in the relevant business quarter. Without the date, it's going to be quite challenging to sort by status. So if there's a date column you could add, that should be a quick fix to get what you need.
Nice, thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Ian. That's great. So believe it or not, we're actually over time already, which I'm quite surprised by. So unless there's any last minute questions that we can answer for anyone today, more than happy to do that. I'm late for my next meeting, but I'm sure they'll understand.
I do have a very specific question, so hopefully it's a short one.
Sure.
And it relates to the holiday automation. So firstly, very, very specific related, I suppose, to the Jubilee. If the moving it forward by one business day makes it fall on another holiday, would that automatically pass it over until the sort of first non-holiday day?
Exactly. Yeah. So we will look up the Jubilee day, and then the next day was also a holiday, so that will also be skipped. So it'll be actually 2 business days afterwards.
Okay, perfect. And then on setting the
Oh, sorry, just one thing to note, that as long as all of the days are in the holiday tracker, then it will take care of that automatically.
Okay, brilliant. And then on setting the weekend days and sort of which are the business days, can you have different business days for different team members if you have different weeks or different working days, or does that have to apply to the whole team?
That's a good question. I'm not actually 100% sure of the answer. I don't know, Matan, if you know that. I don't know if it's on account level.
Yeah, I don't think that you can change it for a specific team. You can change it for the whole account. So yeah, but I've heard that request before. I can check that if it's already in our roadmap and keep you guys posted. Okay, thank you.
I suppose what you could do in that case would be you could set up something for holidays, for individual holidays. So in other words, if people aren't, say, for example, people don't work on a Friday, let's say, you could assign them as busy every Friday of the year. And then you could set up an automation that when they're assigned a task on a date that they're already effectively booked, then move it to the next working day in that point.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
So a bit trickier, I guess, in terms of overall account management, but certainly possible. Sure,
yeah, thank you.
And don't forget, for that, if we're doing something for every Friday of the year, you could import that list from a spreadsheet if that's easier. than 52 items.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, look, that's like I said, we're over time. So really thanks everybody for coming on. I hope it was useful. We will send you both a recording of this afterwards. We'll also send you a little survey just to get your feedback on this. As I said, it's the second time we've done it, so we really welcome your feedback. Are we covering topics that are interesting? Is there more you'd like to hear about? Is it longer? Is it too long? Is it too short? What else would you like to see? We will have more Monday experts on our next call, which will be the second Wednesday of July. And we'll try and cover more interesting new features then at that point. If you do have additional questions afterwards, please get in contact. More than happy to have an individual conversation with anybody and see how we can help you with your specific needs and challenges. So thanks again. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again. Hopefully see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.